Hi there, and thank you for clicking on my video. Today we're going to be talking about the Lua arcanes um, and possible uses. Uh, they, frankly, at first glance, come across as a little underwhelming for somebody that's done Steel Path. But we're going to talk about a couple uses and potential uh, I wouldn't say like a meta shift by any means, but I would say that they definitely have niche uses in terms of a young Tenno getting to Steel Path. Um, they provide very unique benefits compared to other arcanes, where they provide several benefits, considering the primary and secondary ones. The biggest impact is probably going to be Arcane Blessing, because it does allow you to swap around mods, and we're going to talk about uses for Arcane Rise. Uh, right now, we're at where the pity system is. When you do the conjunction survival, you're going to be killing Luathrax. You're going to pick up Plasm from Luathrax. I only have one right now because I've been selling these. You're going to turn them in here, and you're going to be able to buy them. But the four arcanes that we're going to be talking about is Arcane Blessing, Conjunction Voltage, Primary Frostbite, and Arcane Rise. And we're going to head to this Simulacrum to talk about their uses and a possible intermediate build. If you're somebody that doesn't truly enjoy doing Eidolons or farming the rarer, I don't know what you would call it, platinum tier mod or arcanes like um, Guardian, Grace, Energize, or something like that. There's definitely some uses in terms of like intermediate builds. So let's go over. Uh, I built this Excalibur. This is a new one, and I've done a build where it focuses around the Lua arcanes. Now it looks a little bit different. It's got Arcane Blessing on it. The normal tank build, if you are trying to face tank or give your frame as much survivability as possible, revolves around Guardian Grace. So this build is going to be more for somebody who doesn't have the Eidolon Arcanes and is just getting to Steel Path, because the Lua Arcanes are farmable on the regular star chart. It's a little bit slower, but you can get it done. And Blessing, when it stacks, it's a stacking arcane. It gives you 24 health stacks each time it stacks up to 50 times. It's a ton of health. And the biggest benefit to this is that it's stronger than a normal vitality, uh, and in some circumstances, even like Umbral Vitality. For regular frames, unless you do triple Umbra, this is the go-to way for EHP right now. And one of the smaller benefits, if you will, is if you are running Equilibrium, and I tout the flow Equilibrium and the synth set on the pet. This does allow your pet to survive longer, because as you gain health, the pet will gain health if you have link health. But one of the things that's sort of a nice little trinket you get for it is the first 50 health orbs that you pick up, even without Equilibrium, you will pick these up. So you can pick them up, gives you health. If this frame was max rank, I've been forming it, trying to like work around a build. It would get you to 1500. That is an incredibly tanky Excalibur for what a normal Excalibur is in terms of like EHP. So even without that, and I don't have a companion equipped, so there's no synth set working. For the first 50 health orbs, you can pick them up even though you're at max health, because it's going to be stacking toward this arcane, which is a nice thing if you're running equilibrium and you're running a pet without the synth set. So while you're working on like beginning steel path and getting like you're trying to figure out how to like get the shield gating down, this is sort of a crutch system that will help out slightly. And if you're running quick missions, it basically just allows you to pick up health orbs for free, regardless of what pet you have, if you have equilibrium. So it's a nice little thing, and considering most missions, unless you're doing like a longer survival, you're not going to max this arcane anyway. So shield gating a little bit. So taking advantage of this free stacking, I've moved, in order to get rid of Guardian Grace to make this more new player friendly, somebody who is just starting Steel Path and maybe doesn't enjoy Eidolons. One of the things we can take advantage of is health conversion, and this is going to be the most expensive mod on here. This, I think it costs either 75,000 or 100,000 standing from Samaris. But the thing is this mod is 450 armor, stacking up to 3x. And this is if you can generate health orbs fast enough. It's 1350 armor, where Guardian is 900. So this is more effective armor also. And if you're running, say, like a Panzer, you're going to be generating orbs a lot. And since this has like a limit on how fast you can consume stacks, taking damage will consume a stack after 3 seconds. With the Panzer, you're easily able to keep this stacked up, right? So, because you're going to, everything that the spores damage count as damage. When you kill them, they're going to be dropping health orbs left, right, and center. So it's a really good combination. Does require you to have a bit of like a steamroll effect, where you can't really like sit still and take damage because the stacks will fall off. But if you're moving quickly through a mission, you can easily keep this up. So one of the things that Arcane Blessing allows us to do is it allows us, provided we don't have the Eidolon Arcanes, to move health off our mods and into the Arcane slot, right? So even though we start out at 260, we're eventually going to go to 1500, provided I max rank this Excalibur. So it actually frees up a mod slot, where normally we would have to run Rolling Guard or Adaptation, depending on what level you're running at. Rolling Guard is obviously almost required for higher end content, but for like Star Chart running, Rolling Guard is overkill. Adaptation works perfectly fine. And for most of the Steel Path, frankly, Adaptation works pretty well too. It starts running into problems if you're doing like a rotation C and like Mott and whatnot, because they have the damage increase. But by moving Guardian and Grace off, and Blessing and health conversion giving so much effective HP, we're actually able to run health conversion, Rolling Guard, and Adaptation. And this can practically face tank Steel Path. You have to manage your energy a little bit, but just with Brief Respite, you're able to have as much EHP as you need to prevent getting one shot, and will make shield gating significantly more forgiving. Because as you're learning shield gate, you need to be able to spam your abilities essentially if you're trying to face tank, which you really shouldn't be. But as like an oh shit button, Brief Respite and shield gating is definitely great. Even on Excalibur, you can use your 1 to shield gate a little bit. And with casting speed shards, 2 and even 3, if you're running enough attack speed, would be sufficient for shield gating, right? So in terms of EHP, this actually ends up being way better for your effective health points in middle tier content. And that's why I'm actually becoming a bit of a fan of Arcane Blessing for running like star chart missions and like Steel Path. Even I've started running it. Um, Even on that super tanky Nezha that I have, I would be able to then put Rolling Guard on it, but I'm not going to get rid of an Umbral Former, so I'll probably make another Nezha. But I would be able to run a setup that does all of the three stats that the Umbral Former would do, but come out significantly farther ahead. And because of Arcane Blessing, health conversion, and adaptation, in terms of like EHP, I would be I would have like another 170 health or whatever it works out to, and like another 500 armor, or 450, another 450 armor, because I can keep the health tank going so fast. So it's definitely food for thought, and I think the best way to look at these arcanes as a whole, there's a couple of weapons that are clear wins when it comes to the other arcanes included. But in terms of like making your frame tankier, Arcane Blessing seems to be, if you don't have Guardian Grace and you don't want to put the Forma into putting a Vitality in, or you just want to be that much tankier and run Blessing Grace, and just get your EHP as high as possible, it just seems like it's a clear win. There's really no other way to say it. I thought the nice little niche thing of like being able to pick up health orbs, like in its interaction with Equilibrium, makes it extremely forgiving for players just getting into Steel Path, where maybe they have a Panzer and they're still learning like priming and like shield gating. This seems to make it significantly more forgiving for things like that. But this build, as nuts as it looks, does Steel Path just fine. I've gotten to Rotation C and Tavuni, and I did a little bit of Cascade. Obviously didn't do a level cap, but I did, like, I think it was 20 of them, and it was just fine. So to like 250, 300, not a big deal. It seems to work, though it does add, you have to keep moving. You can't slow down. So let's talk about the other parts, because there's actually a bit of a flow that you can do to make your rotation decent. And we're going to talk about the other ones. Arcane Rise is the other one we have equipped. On reload, 60% chance for 150 damage to primary weapons. At first glance, your first thought's going to be, well, Merciless is, like double that, right? More than double. And at a rank 5, you get reload on top of it. And that's where I think, for most instances, this is just going to be considered like a second tier arcane. That being said, if you haven't done Steel Path yet, this is a pretty nice arcane. The dynamic of how this plays out is that where Merciless or Deadhead, which are the two popular ones, or even Dexterity, require you to kill something, you don't have to kill anything for this. You have to reload. So if you have a weapon that reloads particularly quick, you can trigger this significantly faster than Merciless, and it's got a 24-second uptime. So the first thought for me was to test out the Phantasma, and it works wonderfully on it. We're going to be using this build. I know it looks a little goofy. We'll talk about it in a second. This would be an example of like a Riven Phantasma build. Pretty basic. I did go more into crit. The crit is personal preference. Like, obviously there would be an argument for Blaze here, because of the fact that it's a heat build. So food for thought, this is what I'm running with, and it's mostly because I have this Riven, which is minus impact, status chance heat with magazine, right? This is actually designed to be used with tempo. So let's compare the damage. It's primary merciless. We are going to take off Rise so we can compare apples to apples. Gonna load in some nerds. So this is pseudo meta build. And if any of you have done like longer survivals or disruptions, you've probably gotten yourself in the situation where you're like, thank God for trash mobs. Because say you die or you're running something like Deadhead and the enemies are starting to get tanky and you're, as Warframe Grinds says, you're having to outplay your build. Say you're just starting to get the handle on things, but you get to the point where you can't stack your arcane anymore, or the enemies start getting super strong and you can't keep Merciless up because these stacks fall off every 4 seconds. So if you're running like a dot build, and you're not paying attention or your build isn't tuned, this can fall off pretty quick and you can get into trouble. And you're going to have to go around and try to, find trash mobs. We've all been there. The difference is where you have this, you can either flat out use it as boosted damage, as a gimme, but on reload, you'll see in the top right, reload, okay, it triggered, right up here. With no kill required, I'm able to get 150 damage, which is give or take half, a little under, of what a Merciless would give, providing an additional floor to my base damage. And because the Phantasma has a relatively small magazine, decent fire rate, but more importantly, a very, very, very quick reload, this actually comes out as a pretty pleasant alternative to, say, tempo. Now, it's not too big of an issue on the Phantasma, because we can see the ammo pickup is slightly more than a clip. But if you're trying to conserve ammo, running Rise and not running fire rate, I would say it isn't necessarily a positive, because obviously running the fire rate is going to be higher DPS, but it could be a second tier alternative at best, because obviously you would want to run fire rate. But if you're having trouble and you're not able to keep up with your ammo, say you don't have the primed ammo recovery or mutation, this could be considered as like a patch, if you will. Because if you're running tempo, you're going to be setting ammo on fire, metaphor intended. So with tempo, you have to be able to deal with the ammo consumption, and there's plenty of ways to deal with that, but that assumes you have it, which is why I would say for like most builds, Rise is a comfortable alternative until you get the Steel Path Arcanes. But we actually are trying to build for the new Lua Arcanes. What would a build look like that has all of the Lua Arcanes incorporated, right? So a build would look something like this if you did not build for multiple instances of the same stat, which is why we don't have crit damage on here. Because say what you want about Frostbite, like obviously it's a big win with the Sea-Doo, right? But for most other weapons, the arcane that this is going to be replacing, or the mod that the arcane is going to be replacing, is actually going to be Primed Ravage. Primed Ravage is 110 crit damage and costs you 14 capacity. We also have Primed Point Blank, which is 165 damage. So I think this combo is going to work out best on shotguns, because of what their damage is. Obviously, Merciless is a positive, right? And it's a big positive. It's 300 damage, base damage. But if you don't have them yet, like you're starting out Steel Path, running Rise on the frame is 15 damage short of primed point blank. And Frostbite gives you 120 crit damage. Ravage is 110. And then the multi-shot is just free real estate, right? So the logic is take off crit damage, or if you've gotten to Steel Path in, say, like a Barrow or two, you might have not had the chance to pick this mod up. Or if you're free to play and you don't particularly enjoy selling, Primed Ravage might just not be something you have. So as an alternative to it, Primed Ravage would definitely be a slot. I've used it here. This does cap. It's fine. But it requires the... I wouldn't even say it requires the Riven, but it definitely helps. But as an alternative to, say, not having this mod and maybe not having Guardian Grace, or say having running like an invisibility frame where you have like a free slot, like say Ash or something, it could definitely be part of an alternative build where, say, the frame or the condition that you're using it in would have like a free arcane available. This would be something that you could do, where you could move the base damage onto the frame on, say, something like the Phantasma, and I'm going to show you after this how to trigger the bonus without using the primary. It's pretty simple, but I'm just going to show it. And then end up with a net positive while maintaining the heat damage, where normally I wouldn't have all 3 heat mods if I was running crit damage. You're going to come out at least even with somebody who has rank 5 Steel Path Arcanes. Because you will gain a mod slot on your build, which would either say you wanted to run Blaze and you didn't have Prime Cleanse Grenier, which is what I'm going to be using. You could then slot your base damage here and even it back out until you get the rank 5 Arcane. You know what I mean? So it's like an intermediate step. And I think that's the best way to think about these, because in each circumstance, the amount of damage that you get from the Steel Path Arcanes is just so high, I don't think it really compensates. But since we're able to fit Blaze onto the Phantasma, it ends up not being a complete wash, because this gives you base damage and it gives you additional heat scaling. Like, you can see what my weighting is. I've got 8 impact, 16 radiation, and 50 heat. That's a healthy weighting for heat status ticks. And I didn't have to sacrifice, and I get more crit damage than getting Primed Ravage. So, okay. So let's talk about triggering it. The easiest way that I have found that still uses a primer in terms of quickly you get the stacks is the Epitaph. And it's running an electric viral Epitaph. It's literally 2 shots to get 40 stacks. The electricity gives you the reload. Not that that's anything on the Epitaph, but it gives you the multi-shot, which is super nice. Allows you to prime faster. And the cold triggers Frostbite. Okay. So it's a pretty tasty combo. We saw what the damage was before. And look up here. And you'll see how fast it stacks. 2 shots and both are maxed. Nice and simple. Generally, you're hitting stuff like 2 or 3 times, which is definitely going to stack it. So in terms of a quick stack, and then once every 10 seconds, you just got to blast something once to maintain both of them, because we're basically guaranteeing a cold proc, because it's the Epitaph, right? It is a guaranteed cold proc. But because there's so much AoE and because of the status chance waiting, we're going to get an electricity proc somewhere within a shot or two. So this is probably the most turning a meta build into something alternative, because you could reasonably have the epitaph. But okay, let's see what the damage is. We'll get our reload. Okay, there we go. Now, the one thing about this in terms of gameplay-wise is because the damage is based on reload, and because it's 150, until you get, I think it's a rank 2 Merciless, because you do not have the reload bonus, or a rank 2 Merciless, let me check. It is actually better to run Rise. I think rank 2 is when it flips. I know it's better than rank 1. 15 times 12. Okay, so 15 times 12 is 180. So this would be better than Rise, because we're not comparing reload speed. So at rank 2, at 12 stacks, it beats it out. But the stacks fall off, though. So anything 10 stacks on a rank 2 Merciless and below, Rise is better. And obviously, as the damage goes up, or as the stacks go up, as you get kills on Merciless, Merciless will pull further and further ahead. But you have to get kills. And if you're just starting out Steel Path, you're probably gaining the experience where you're finding out that your builds for Star Chart aren't really that good. Everybody goes through it for the first mission or two, and you go, oh, I need a build, and you ask somebody about it, or maybe you're on a Smurf or something like that, and you know how to do it. But considering the fact that Rise is farmable in regular Star Chart, you can do Steel Path incursions, and get your socket, your arcane slot early, and be good to go. So until rank 2, these the Merciless doesn't ever pull ahead. When you look at Deadhead, rank 2 again, but it's on 3 stacks. And Dexterity, which is probably the most useful one early on, you would need rank 2 again, but you would need 5 stacks or more. It's even at 5 stacks. At 6 stacks, it pulls ahead. And at least it's 20 seconds for these stacks to fall off. So Dexterity would be a good option. Deadhead, if you're running flat damage, slash, like dot damage does not trigger this. It triggers Merciless. So generally that's the meta. If you're running raw damage, you take Deadhead. Gives you a nice damage boost at rank 5, but if you're getting to Steel Path, you're not going to have that if it's your first time. Unless you wailed and bought them. I mean, they're cheap as shit. You could have just bought them. So, food for thought. Now let's talk about a way that I found that is way more natural. And we're going to take advantage of multiplicative damage. Okay. So because we don't have to mod for base damage, because that's going to be on the frame itself, and because we're gaining the access to 120 crit damage on the arcane itself, we are going to remove crit damage from the weapon. That is optional. If you do not have a Bane, or if you don't like playing with a Bane, crit damage would go here. Like that. Okay? You would still mod for it if you don't like using a Bane. I like using a Bane. So there's still plenty of space for it to just be a net positive. Gonna do fire rate, whatever fire rate mod you have. Speed trigger, vigilante fervor, whatever you have access to is going to go here. But shred is the gold standard, though. So how would we make triggering this super easy? I've really enjoyed playing with the Hystrix. Again, guaranteed cold procs. You mod it for viral electricity, weighted on electricity a bit. Um, and because you only need 10 stacks of viral, you run a primer build. So Sure Shot, Barrel Diffusion, Lethal Torrent, which is fire rate and multi-shot, Pestilence and Frostbite for viral, Convulsion to give us electricity. And I did Stunning Speed to give us reload. Because what's the prime reload? Yeah, prime reload is a little over double. Because what we're going to be taking advantage of is we're going to be using this as a primer, and we're going to be using this as the trigger, the reload from this, gives us the rise damage bonus. It has the potential to trigger it. And just sort of to increase our procs as fast as possible, we are going to run Seeker, which is incredibly expensive. It's a 15 cost mod. It's a 15 capacity mod. But you'll see how fast it triggers. It's super quick. And Stunning Speed, because it's status chance and reload, which is exactly what we need. So it's a little under half a quick draw, but we gain the bonus of status chance. Because one of the things that the Hystrix does suffer from is if you're not dealing with what the quill is. Because if this weapon has quills that you can change out, the quill is a guaranteed status proc. But RNG on the rest of it, this is a sizable damage pool to quantize, and you're going to have to bullet hose it to make this even reasonable. But let me show you how it plays out. It's significantly smoother. And we're going to swap over to this, and we are going to select the Ice Quill because we've modded for electric and viral. We need to be able to trigger electric procs and cold procs. Gonna charge it up. Reload, we got our bonus. I have not taken my finger off the fire. I have not taken my finger off the fire button. And that's surprisingly smooth gameplay. It's not super efficient, but that's pretty enjoyable. You definitely start to feel like a little bit of a ball of hate. And one of the ways we can smooth this out significantly, if you noticed when I was firing, my reload wasn't completing. It's because I am running right now a synth mod that I haven't formatted into the Exilus yet. So I don't ever have to take my finger off the trigger, because as I'm running through, provided you're killing, you will be picking up ammo as you go. And with the synth set, it's pretty balanced. There's no holster reload that I know of that's decent. Yeah, there's no holster reload. I think the tenant's setup, the tenant weapons have the, what do they call it? The agenda system? I can look it up. I forget the exact name of it, but most of them have a reload, like the Envoy, the Diplos, the Spyrex, um, have reload mechanics. And that's like specific to those. And the Felarx has a 50% magazine reload as one of the evolutions. But for primaries, there aren't too many holster reloads. You have to use the synth set. So if it's something unique to the weapon, you can get away with it. But otherwise, you're kind of stuck using the synth set. And then it gives you, because you're swapping, it then gives you the swap damage. Where on equip plus 40, this one gives you bullet jump. You also have the holster bonus for that and vigorous swap. If I can spell it right. There we go. And vigorous swap, which would be an option also on equip. So you can swap through these and continuously get a damage bonus. Will turn you into even more ball of hate. But due to the fact that both weapons, the Hystrix and the Stalta, are both full auto, you don't even have to take your finger off the fire button when you swap them. They'll just continuously fire. And this will further boost your damage. I wouldn't recommend doing holster amp if you're running vigorous swap. It's just weaker. Just keep your brief for spite. So this would be like my food for thought on a build like this. It's definitely an effective play style for bullet hose weapons. And if you're using the Hystrix, I don't know how much I'd be comfortable with like priming for a Tonkor, right? But I mean, it's definitely something. And I think this sort of play style where you're rapidly swapping between, I would recommend the Hystrix if you don't mind going between a single shot and a full auto or whatever primary you're using. This allows you to just keep the buff active the entire time. So for the first row, Rise is a straight up win. As soon as you need to reload, you just swap out. Fire that. And running the carrier does a lot to fixing the ammo consumption. Obviously. So let's go ahead and pick up the ammo. See how much we used. Alright, with the ammo from the guys that we just killed, we completely recovered our ammo. So it's ammo self-sufficient. It's very bullet hosey. But from those guys picking that up, actually, let me back out of the simulacrum. There could have been drops from the last guys that I killed. Let me do it right. Real quick, real quick. Pull out the Hystrix. Go to the Cold Quill. We got our reload bonus. As soon as we run out of ammo on our primary, swap over to the secondary, keep firing, keep priming. Alright, that's a little more realistic. I think we picked up one ammo. Okay, let's see what the damage was. So between killing those guys and literally holding down the left trigger, we picked up 40 secondary rounds and I think it was 35 primary rounds. So obviously you can't hold down the trigger, but it's pretty self-sufficient, especially with the carrier. And now that there's things like hard reset, which if you didn't know exists, execute 3 mercy kills within 40 seconds to revive a fallen sentinel or companion. If you don't care about it priming effectively, you can now take whatever sentinel you want. Right? You can take whatever sentinel you want, and as long as, like, say, whatever you're priming something with has impact, and it procs it, you'll be able to get a mercy kill now that there's that yellow bar. You just have to make sure their health is below it. Just get your impact procs on it, get a mercy kill. You just need 3 in whatever the time was, and it'll revive your companion. So if you run that, obviously that's a little bit more of a rare mod. It's not obtusely rare, but it definitely opens up the possibility if you're not worried about the viral proc because you're running a build like this, right? You're going to be priming with viral. It's a little bit sweatier than running a Panzer where you just basically get viral for free. But it is an alternative, and I would say at absolute best, this becomes like a really viable build for somebody that is going from Star Chart, moving through arbitrations and moving into Steel Path. This would be a very strong build that does not require Eidolon Arcanes. All of these are farmable, and it would make you reasonably tanky, especially with the combination if you are running like the Panzer, which you still should be, even though I'm making this video. You will be able to regen health and basically be able to face tank like 1 or 2 enemies, which is completely reasonable for Steel Path. Obviously, you're not going to be able to face tank like mobs of enemies, where like a fully kitted out build can, but being completely reasonable, giving you plenty of time, making that bar of entry significantly lower. I think these are very, very good arcanes for what they do. So consider a build like this. Continuity is whatever you want. I was just doing this on Excalibur to show that you can do it on Excalibur. It's a 3-forma Excalibur. Don't even have, or I do have an Auraforma. So one's an Auraforma. I did, I think, 2 dash polarities. I think it's these 2. So everything right here, an Auraforma, not even really required. You could form with something else. Yeah, because Excalibur doesn't have an aura alignment, right? So this got an Auraforma. So I think it has its place. It's not game breaking. It is going to allow some frames where they just basically need health. Blessing, if you do not care about running Guardian Grace and you are comfortable running health conversion, it's definitely a slightly different play style. You have to pay attention to something else. And doesn't provide the straight up health tank or the face tank, where it's just you have armor and you go. Because modding for armor is significantly more efficient than modding for health, because the rank bonuses count like a mod. So where you would have, like, say, vitality, if I were to mod for this, where it says plus 440%, it's based off of the unranked Excalibur health, right? The 100, where the health is plus 160%, so 100 plus 160% is 260. If I were to put vitality on here, it would bump me up to 600% health and will bump me to 600. Or plus 600 plus the base, so that would be 700. So it's acting like an additional mod instead of being flat health. So where vitality is giving me what, 440 health. Blessing is going to get me all the way to 1500. So it's a significantly better scaling mod. So if you decide to do like a rotation C, when I was doing Steel Path, I was regularly getting this stacked up in like the first couple of minutes playing solo. But I was using the Panzer, so obviously the health drops were in abundance. But I had no issue whatsoever stacking this up by the first Acolyte if you are a solo player. Obviously, playing with other people, you're going to be able to get health orbs from their kills as well. And it'll probably be just fine also, but it might be a little bit slower. But anyways, I'm going to call it for there. This is an example of a build. I found the Hystrix, even though the Epitaph is significantly more efficient at proccing both of the arcanes, the electricity and the electricity is mainly to allow priming significantly faster. You want the reload speed, right? So it shoves it below 1. And the multi-shot helps you prime faster. So as you gain stacks, it allows you to prime faster, which is a positive. Seeker allows you to prime more enemies at once, which is obviously keeps this stacked up super easy. Allows you to build it up super fast if you're shooting into a row of enemies. And it just allows you to prime about as good as you can with a weapon that's single target. Obviously, the Epitaph, if you like using the Epitaph, obviously that's probably going to be the gold standard for this kind of gameplay. But I just like the idea of being able to hold down the fire button and focus on swapping back and forth between the primary and the secondary and just mowing stuff down. And you can't do that with the Epitaph because it doesn't reload. Okay, let's talk about a couple of examples because I have not mentioned some primaries that are clear winners. The Stalta does pretty well. Multiplicative damage, comes out ahead with Frostbite. So I'm probably going to be permanently adjusting my build to use Frostbite because this weapon loves it. Another winner, to nobody's surprise, is the Sea-Doo. Miles ahead. If you run Rise and Frostbite, you can also mod base damage on here. Say if you don't have the faction damage. Point blank or prime point blank fits easily in there. Nice healthy damage. But if you want like slightly better scaling, because point blank would then be competing with Rise also. This is assuming you're using the new Lua Arcanes trying to get into Steel Path. Modding Rise or modding the Rise Arcane and Frostbite, it would be better in this circumstance to go with faction damage. If you don't want to do faction damage, base damage if you have prime point blank, more than okay. This is a viral Sea-Doo. I also have one that is corrosive. Community named. God bless. Another one that actually surprised me is the Bosmu. Not super strong in the damage department, but this is one of the few charge weapons where it has a reload function on it. If you drain the battery completely, okay, so looking in the top right, let's just double check again that I actually got the arcane on. Right? So if you fire, it's a battery. Give it a couple of times, doesn't trigger. But if you drain it all the way, it reloads. And it's got infinite ammo. So this benefits pretty damn well from the combo. Obviously, points off for the fact that it's an event weapon. So Sea-Doo is the big winner. No surprise there. Phantasma triggers the reload super easy. So in terms of easy use, I would say is a net positive on it. if you're going from Star Chart into Steel Path and you don't have the Steel Path arcanes yet. Any shotgun at all. Hold on. Let's just any shotgun at all. And what is it? Not the Corinth Prime, but the regular Corinth, right? That reloads one at a time. Has plenty of chances to trigger this, since reloading triggers off of each shell, right? And the Strun 1's crit damage, since it's really difficult to get its crit chance over 100. It's not impossible, but it is. You're going to need a hell of a roll. This benefits as well. You're going to need base damage elsewhere. Use Rise. Not really super beneficial damage-wise. I'm actually not sure, and I'd be talking out of my ass if I said it, if this weapon was multiplicative. I don't think it is. But it could be, though. So any weapon that reloads one at a time. The Strun, obviously the Fell Arcs, reloads one at a time. The Synth set does not trigger the Rise Arcane. I tested it. I have never been able to trigger it. If it starts doing it, I remember the first time these came out, somebody showed me that it was triggering. I think it was literally like a day one thing, and then they basically patched it. But it could have also been a simulacrum bug. So, because it wasn't a simulacrum, so if it was ever working, it wasn't working in mission as far as I know. But if it does, that's going to completely change the game. So anything with a quick reload, primary or secondary, and that's why I was using the Hystrix, super quick reload, you can trigger it with other things. So, like, if you have a secondary that you're priming with, and that's one of the things the Epitaph will not do, because it isn't reloading, it's a magazine. Bows don't trigger it. The reload mechanic, which is obviously on the secondary, and it seems to be that the Hystrix is probably the easiest way to trigger the primary, the secondary, arcanes, and Rise from one weapon. It seems like the easiest one, and it's full auto. So if you consider this as an option, that would be the setup that I would recommend. You can get your forced procs from the quills. You can either choose to do Corrosive Cold with the electric quill, or do Viral Electric with the cold quill to get your combo, and it'll be easy peasy. And the reload on it helps make the primer even better, right? Because you really don't, if you're priming, you basically want multi-shot and reload, right? Like multi-shot first, it'd be nice if you had fire rate, but multi-shot helps out a bunch because you need to get more shots in faster. So multi-shot and fire rate and status chances, basically the stats that you're looking for. So, food for thought. I think this video has gone on long enough. You guys see how like a potential build would work out. I'm not claiming. I'm not even gonna say that this is even close to like a top tier meta shift. Also of note, for the nerds amongst you that are still running Vectuses doing Eidolons, try this out. Because right now there's no arcane that buffs snipers when you're shooting something that doesn't take status effects and doesn't die for a couple minutes. At least you should be doing them in a couple minutes. On reload, this is just free real estate for sniper damage. If you're running the reload arcane, and you're tanky enough, say you did like a triple revolt or something like that, and you don't care about the energy drain, right? From the magnetic procs or the radiation or anything. Say you have a team you trust. Good luck. I hope you're not running pubs. This is definitely free real estate and should be at least considered, though probably ruled out. But at least try it. It's extra damage on snipers because, like on the Vectus, you're constantly reloading. And as you're building combo on your zoom combo, you're constantly reloading. So it's food for thought. Just consider it. It's probably not going to change the meta. I'm sure if it does, it's going to be some big brain take on it. But anyway, I think this explains it well enough. If you're looking for your own weapon and you want to try this out, say you're starting out Steel Path, you're looking for anything that reloads heavily, I would say try the Hystrix. It doesn't have to be the Prime. The regular Hystrix is a great way to proc Rise and the primary and secondary arcane all at the same time. Mod for a combo element, like a second tier element, and then do cold or electric, and then you pick the quill that gives you the opposite. Pretty simple. And then you just burn through ammo priming. It's pretty simple. So food for thought, and then you have a boosted weapon until you get those juicy Steel Path arcanes maxed out. But anyway, thank you for listening to my TED Talk, at least what I'm supposed to say, right? Thank you guys for listening if you made it this far. I hope this helps or at least gives you some insight. This is the best way that I've figured allows all of them to work together. And even then, it feels like as long as you can keep up the kill rate, you feel like a little angry ball of hate. I'm not going to lie. It's a nice little boost in damage, especially since it frees up even on like corrosive builds. It frees up a slot because it takes off the crit damage where you can easily slot in faction damage now. So if you're running a dot build, it should at least be considered, right? Because if you're running primed faction mods and you're running a dot build, it's almost apples to apples, right? Especially if you're priming, you'd want the faction damage. It would scale slightly better if you're priming because of the way Galvanized Savvy works, right? But anyway, take it easy, guys. Have a blessed day. Take it easy. Glad to see you guys again. Bye.